What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Come On Knows. I'm your favorite host, bringing you all the current events, and your job is to let me know if it's factual or capital. Today we have another hot topic, and today's topic is, why do black men not go to college? Which is a silly question, but the best way to answer silly questions is to answer them with more questions. Don't ever answer a silly question with the statement. So today we're going to be reacting to Anton Daniels reacting to someone claiming that black men do not go to college, and we're going to break down why that is. So let's go ahead and rock out. What's going on, everybody? Really quick before we dive back into today's topic, if you guys like and want to support us, go ahead and hit that description box down below. As we're currently waiting to get monetized, this is the best way to help and support. And if not, you can go ahead and share all our content and videos. Anything helps, and you're much appreciated. Let's rock out.
Around the topic of black men are not going to college, higher education. Now, the first rebuttal that I know I'm going to hear is go into trade, start a business, go directly in the workforce. As someone who is, one, a research scientist, particularly an education research scientist, and two, I help people of all academic levels get into college or post-secondary career paths. This is quite literally my expertise. And so I'm going to approach this conversation.
So before I let her get into her talking points, there's 3 questions I want to ask, and I'm going to answer through the duration of this video. The first question I have is, has college proven to close the wealth gap in the black communities? And number 2, where do and who do most black graduates work for after college? And then number 3, do systematic barriers not exist anymore because you obtained a college degree? These are the 3 questions that I'm going to be answering through this video. I want you guys to keep that in mind as we keep rolling.
A direction in which we have not heard or considered a lot, and I think we need to consider this. First one being, industrial education is not easy. Period. Going to trade school is not easy. Also, that conversation of going directly into trade is not keeping up to date with the automation systems that are dominating industrial education or the vocation space. And so you need some type of technical skill set as any other industry now.
Well, first of all, trade school isn't really is it harder or easier type of thing. I think trade school is more of a preference, whatever you prefer. Some people don't really see the value of going through 4 years of education where they could get either maybe 2, 8 months and have a skill set that they have that can last a long time. And they can hurry up and start making money rather than working 4 years. So I don't think it's anything to do with what's harder. I think it's more so, what do you prefer? What do you think you're better at?
I'm not saying you need to know how to code, but the realm of trade school, vocational school, going trade is going to require an onset of mathematics and engineering in the same way that it was not once required. The second point in which I want to hold this.
So let's start there, right? Let's break this down point by point. What she's basically saying is, you basically embracing the changing of the times and the technical expertise that it's going to take for you to do any job, let alone going into trades or whatever, is just a part of society. It's a part of life now. And so you're going to have to make sure that you bring up your technical expertise. You're going to have to learn how to embrace, even when it comes to the way that we look at applying for a job today is completely different than what it was yesterday. If you just want to look at it from a C student's perspective and break it all the way down. I remember, because I'm an 80s babies and the 90s raised me, I remember when people actually filled out physical applications for basic jobs. Now, you cannot really apply for a job unless you go online. You can't just have a resume and send it anymore and email a resume. You have to have a LinkedIn. You have to have a social media presence. You have to learn how to market yourself. You have to be technically savvy to participate in today's society. And so if you are not keeping up with the times technologically, and if you are not, and she said that you don't have to necessarily know how to code, but then if you don't know how to, move technologically in whatever position that you're doing, listen, you can get a basic job at a basic restaurant. And I've seen servers to where, they don't just take the card anymore. They actually have to physically program into it, and then you pay at the table and all of this stuff.
Basically, so everybody at the table is going to know if your card's declined. See, back then, You know what I'm saying? They'll take the car, go to the cash register, and then they'll whisper in your ear, "Hey man, the car didn't go through." Now everybody gonna see that big ass X at the dinner table once you tap the car. That's all that
It
means.
sounds simple to us because a lot of us are used to the technological wave that's been happening, that's been taking over every single industry that we have going on. But then you have to think about it from the back end. You got to think about it from who's programming these things. You got to think about it from, I've seen Boston Dynamics basically sell some robots over to Hyundai that are using that to do the inspection process. But then there's also humans that have to participate with those robot dogs in order to complete the inspection progress or the inspection process throughout the whole thing. So you have to have a level of technological savvy to be able to participate in these jobs that are basically playing out. And the conversation that we having are black.
So what's the point? I hear both of them. I get it. Times are changing, but what is the point? What is the result from both? That's what I want to hear. Which leads me to my first question: has college proven to close the wealth gap in black communities? Have we seen the wealth gap close, or have we seen it widening apart? Are we moving further away from everybody else on the wealth gap, the opposite direction? And the answer is no. College does not close the wealth gap. And the reason why I say that is because, one, college doesn't teach you how to gain wealth. College teaches you how to gain income, how to work. So the difference between wealth and income is wealth is money owned, income is money earned. You see what I'm saying? And we haven't had an issue with income. We've been having issues with wealth. Wealth is what we've been restricted from as a black community. For example, you might get a degree in nursing and go work for a hospital. Now you're gaining income. But the shareholder of that hospital, the person who's in charge or who owns a piece of that hospital or the whole hospital, who 9 times out of 10 does not have a college degree, makes more money than you. And not only that, they could pass that wealth, that hospital, whatever, down to their kids. You can't pass down that nursing degree. And that's an issue. That's an issue because we have to understand that everybody else is operating underneath a foundation. And that foundation other races and cultures are operating off of is wealth. And we're operating off of zero. We have nothing. But we're setting our kids through these schooling systems, these pipelines, to gain income when other races and groups are competing with wealth underneath them, building on top of their wealth with income. That's a problem. So the problem is we don't own anything. So you could have all the income in the world. Income doesn't necessarily translate into wealth, especially if you don't know how to build wealth. Income runs out.
Men going to college, not participating in universities. It has been a huge discussion that's been happening on social media and in articles that are being.
And it's really disrespectful. And as a black man who did go to college, because I do have my 4-year degree, I don't see no other cultures or races of their women calling out their men like this. We're always being called out by black women on large platforms, and just it's really embarrassing. It's like they have no sympathy or understanding, and they think they have the answers. Let's continue.
Written, and it's basically saying that black men are being left behind because they are no longer participating in society in a way that they need to in order to thrive. Let's see what her next point is.
This conversation is the literacy crisis.
Yes, that's true.
I don't think people understand the impact that the literacy crisis has in one's life. Because we think about people not being able to read, or children not being able to read, and we think about like the kindergartners or the 5th graders or even middle schoolers. What happens when high schoolers do not know how to read? They're still graduating. They're still getting passed through the system.
This is not a black man issue. See, a lot of her talking points, they're not directly towards black men. She's making general statements. Illiteracy, this is a nationwide American issue. This is not a black man issue. This is a schooling system issue. This is what you're promoting issue. You're promoting going to school, going to college. This is a systematic issue. Or unless you're trying to blame the parents. And it's not the parents' fault. The parents are sending their kids to school. It's what is being taught. It's the environment in school. All that is the issue. So here you are trying to say black men aren't going to school, but you are currently right now telling us that the system for the past couple years has been failing. Illiteracy rates have been increasing. Stop going through the system. Why would you send me through this pipeline if you know it's failing at some point? You don't get smart once you go. You don't necessarily learn how to read when you go to college. You learn that stuff beforehand. So what are we talking about?
System.
Yep.
And so
No child left behind.
now you're going to have a huge population of people that are functionally illiterate. In the city of Houston, 1 in every 3 adults are functionally illiterate.
That's insane, bro. And there are plenty of people that don't even know how to read. There's plenty of people that can't read past the 2nd grade, 3rd grade level. And we are expecting these people to be productive members of society.
What that got to do with going to college? And what that got to do with black men? That is not our problem. That's your systematic issue problem. That's the system you're trying to go through problem. Y'all got to fix it.
And we had this no child left behind nonsense that was basically a liberal mindset and a liberal view to continue to get these people through school without actually having them learn anything. It's crazy.
Also, the cost of illiteracy by 2030, I believe, is going to be $1.12 trillion. And so that is something that also has to be talked about. The next point that I want to make is the social impact that this will have, and that this currently does have. And unfortunately, we learn far too late about the social impact of not being intellectually sound as your peers. This doesn't just affect your friend group or network. And we hear a lot of just start a business, just network, just go to these conferences. They're speaking in a certain type of jargon. And professional jargon, or to be middle class, is going to be corporate jargon for the most part. A lot of those ways of community and communication is taught in academia.
I don't know about that. I mean, I graduated from college. I don't really see the difference in the way I'm able to socialize. I think social intelligence is more so a personal trait. Quite frankly, I think you learn social intelligence from the streets, really and truly. I know a lot of kids who go to college and they're socially awkward and they really don't know how to have good conversation or get the best out of conversation. I know people off the streets who got more wit to them, who are smarter, quicker. They know how to ask proper questions. They know what to look for than people who went to college. Which leads to my next question, number 2. Who do most black college graduates go to work for? Who do they work for? And predominantly, 70% of most black graduates go and work for white-owned businesses and corporations. So that's whether your hospitals, that's your banks, that's your engineering companies, that's Microsoft, whatever the case may be, whatever high-paying job, 9 times out of 10, it's owned by a white shareholder or white investor or white owner. So with that being said, that means you're using your labor to enhance this business that your community would never benefit off of. But you personally benefit because you get income. But the wealth that they gained off your labor goes to their community. You see how that works? You put in the work, in exchange, they give you income, and then they thrive off of your work and take the bigger pot of the money and put it in their community. Because you're a doctor, that don't mean you can pour back into your community. You're just a doctor. You could just take care of your family, which I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. But like I stated before, income has never been our problem. Our problem has always been wealth, passing down wealth. So while you're going to these jobs and they're using you as a working machine to work their corporation, to work their business, you're generating money for them. And they're taking the wealth away and providing it for their communities. So who's worse? People who don't attend college and don't go to these corporations and be lawyers and doctors, or people who do go to college and they become doctors, nurses, lawyers, engineers, Microsoft? And the answer is pretty simple. The only reason that this is a problem is because we do not own our own establishments. The schooling system is a problem because we don't own our own schooling systems. You know what I'm saying? When you go to the board of Miami-Dade County and we come together to talk about the kids in scholastics, Why do we have why do we have Spanish people, white people speaking on the behalf of black kids? And what we need to learn in our communities, like they're in our communities. Why do we have that? You see what I'm saying? Why are we not, as a community, in charge of our schooling boards? Why don't we have our own schooling boards? Why don't we have our own private schools? If you're so concerned about systematics and illiteracy, you shouldn't be trusting the system to teach our kids. We should be teaching our kids. But we have to own the building first and hire our own. See how that works? Let's continue.
Higher education, and also through that talent acquisition pipeline to corporate America. If you are never taught the game, now you are going to be a social outcast in these spaces. If you are a social outcast in these spaces, how does that affect your love life? And I also want to take this a step further, especially as we are speaking about Black America and the history of Black Americans, especially when we are looking at the education history of Black Americans, where a lot of us still are the first generation in our family to be educated, even though we are from the United States of America. And so I want people to also consider, how has your mother or your father's education affected your education experience? There's a lot of intersectionalities here. And I'm saying all of this to say is we need to wrap our arms around our Black boys early.
But you can't do that when the social construct of promoting promiscuity in women that are having children out of wedlock, and they say that it's okay for us to continue to raise them in the ghetto and raise them in these.
Hey, you know, I fought with Anton Daniels, and the reason why I say it is because he does not miss a beat to shame some woman. Boy, he does not take a break. Any chance he gets, he's letting these hoes know that, girl, you a hoe. And your hoish ways is unacceptable, it's untolerated, and it's detrimental to society. And he's not wrong. I'm not here to bash him neither. He makes some good points. Our family dynamics do to a certain extent play a role in whether how successful we are or not. It's not limited to that, but it does play a role. But I'm not here to play these gender wars about who's wrong, who's worse, who's causing it, who's the issue. I'm here to figure out what is the solution. And the solution is not pointing the finger at one person or the other person. We need to come together as a team, as a group. And then which leads me to my third point. My third question is, do systematic barriers just magically disappear because you got a degree? No, these same talking points that they're talking about is because of systematic barriers. He's bashing her for whatever choices she made earlier in her life, maybe due to a daddy not being in there in her life, or the baby daddy she chose was trying to make money. He had to sell drugs, and now he's locked up. These are systematic barriers. You see what I'm saying? That, which is causing a destruction in our family groups. So when you have a degree, are you above it now? So now that you made it out the hood, would you not face redlining issues? Will you not get pulled over by the cops like any, I guess what y'all would call a hood nigga with dreads would? Are you above that now? I mean, I know some of y'all like the COON. You know, the algorithm is very sensitive about that word for some reason. COON. I know y'all like to participate in those activities, but even those are not above systematic barriers. Could banks still not reject a loan from you or reject giving you a loan? Right. Could a job still not hire you because of your skin color? Or could they fire you because of your skin color and lie and say it wasn't because of your skin color? Whatever the case may be, you're not above systematic barriers, even with a degree or without a degree. So my last point is saying that I believe education is important, but I believe ownership is more important first. That's what we need to establish first. Because since you guys want to follow the steps of white folks, whatever they did to get to where they're at, to get in power, you're missing the step of where they gained wealth first. That's the first step. And then they built income system based off that wealth to keep supporting that wealth. It's a factory. It's a machine. We're trying to go in just with income, and we just want to keep working, keep spinning that wheel like a hamster. And then we don't get any outcome to our community. So we're talking about individual success when we need to be talking about group economics, power of economics. That's the only way we're going to actually be able to move forward in this society. We're being left behind. Black men are not being left behind. All our ass is being left behind right now. You know what I'm saying? You know, people out there with a college degree that's not doing nothing with it because no one is accepting it. Jobs don't care no more. And we all can't go. We all can't be lawyers, doctors, engineers. And then also the problem is, to every one lawyer or every one doctor in a family, that money is going to run out quick compared to other races and cultures. You know why? Because everybody else is not a doctor in the family. And the family does not have a foundational wealth standing. So if I'm white and I'm a doctor, 9 times out of 10, my parents already have some inherited wealth. My mother already has some inherited wealth, and they built income. They went to school based off that wealth, and they capitalized. So the group itself is strong. Or the little brother might say, man, I'm not going to college. I'm just going to continue enhancing my wealth by creating more wealth by starting a business. Now he has wealth, generating more wealth than everybody, faster. So this is the family dynamics that they have. We're starting from zero, trying to build wealth. And we're not starting off with wealth. So I think this is the answer to this conclusion. And I don't think going to school is the answer, quite frankly. It's part of the answer, but it's not a debate to say we're the reason why we're being left behind. We're being left behind because clearly we don't know the difference between income and wealth. So that's it for today. I hope y'all like that gem. And if you guys like and support the channel, please hit that description box. If not, go ahead and repost and share us all our videos and content. And other than that, you guys have a good one.